Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the only true revolution that has ever taken place in man's history. Evolved the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny.
The United States of America, the greatest nation in history, ordained by our founders to be guided by divine providence. But today, we are witnessing the orchestrated disintegration of America. Take a few seconds and take a look around your town, your state. Look at your country and your world and boldly ask, what in the hell is going on?
But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
Welcome to the podcast Project Third Eye Open, where we dare to question with boldness the events that are unfolding around us that others won't. At the end of the day, it is we the people who will decide the destiny of the nation. Now, introducing your host, Tony L.
Greetings, America. Hope everyone is doing well during these very, very challenging times in which we now currently live and exist. As I start out with all my presentations, I'm going to give thanks to the Most High. Without Him, I would not be here. I would not have been born in the greatest country on the planet. I didn't say perfect. I say the greatest country on the planet. Stacked up against all others, there's nothing even close. From its inception, from its purpose for being created, to give man the freedom that God intended for us to have. There's nothing even close. And I'm Tony L., and you're experiencing another podcast presentation of Project Third Eye Open. These are very challenging times, as we all know. Economically, even more so. So if you haven't took advantage of looking at acquiring real money, that's gold or silver, please visit my website, projectthirdEyeOpen.com. That's project, third spelled out, I, the letter I, open. And check it out. All my listeners and viewers, check it out. And it's an opportunity to purchase something at very, very low cost. But if you don't get it from the company on my site, get it somewhere. Because there's a storm coming. Unlike we have ever read, definitely have never experienced. You see it and creeping up on us if you're paying attention. And it's not that far away. Get your economic house in order. Get your economic house in order. These are very challenging times. Particularly for the men in our country and in our culture, and all across the Western countries, in particular. Masculinity is being assaulted like no other time that I can recall or that I've read. What is it to be a man? Not too long ago, the question of masculinity, what is a man, was never seriously questioned. We all knew what a man was and what a woman was. With an idea of what our purposes were, individually and as a unit. Those notions and beliefs has been turned upside down and inside out through progressive liberalism. Gen Zers is the generation that came after me. I'm a millennial on the cusp. They're catching it. They're catching it. And I said in my last blog article, if you haven't seen it, definitely do go check it out at project.iopen.com. They're pissed. They're angry. They're angry. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. And again, I myself definitely do want to offer my sincerest apologies for not doing better. They're angry, confused, not knowing which way to go, which way to turn, because they don't have no masculine role model to turn to, as I did, and millennials did, and boomers did. They don't have that anchor, that fortress of solitude. They don't have the idols, the heroes, the John Waynes, the Sidney Poitiers, the Minutemen, the depictions of brave men charging the hill with the reservation. They don't have that. But we best be prepared or begin prepared for the fallout. And this is what I'm going to try to share with you, my point of view in all this. And if you have some different point of view, definitely let me know what you think about what I think. Hit me up on my website, project.iopen.com. Email me at tonyl@project.iopen.com. Let's have a conversation. Correct this. This Chinese be going out. Snip that in the bud right now. So let's look at this. The death of masculinity, patriotism, prosperity for Gen Z. And if you think there's not going to be a consequence of this, you are so badly mistaken. And extreme caution is advised, because this is going to have some serious blowback that can come from any direction, from behind, side, front. And we see it being acted out on our streets today. Out of control, young people, angry, mad. and they really don't know what they're angry or mad at. But they feel that sting in their backside. And it's not being addressed as far as they see. So, and I'm focusing in on the man, the male, the male ego, not to say that the girl is not also being negatively impacted, the Gen Z female, but it is the male that is going to lead us out of this. It's not about my generation. I feel that I'm going to outrun this. I'm not going to be unscathed. It's going to have an impact on me because it's going to have an impact on my surroundings, my environment. So it's not about me. It's not about Gen Z. It's not about boomers. I mean, it's not about millennials. It's not about the boomers. It is about Gen Zers and those come after the Gen Zers. It's the silence. And that's a new term. Silence. But it is about the male. How does he see himself? It's masculine ego. Where's it at? Where is his head at? Because it's going to be the male who is going to be looked upon to run into that burning building, to stand guard at that hill, to stand guard at that door, to defend against all interlopers and those who wish us harm, wish the house harm. And that could be the house of the nation, or the house in your city and state, or state in which you reside. It is going to be him. Women should not be looked upon, though she may be able and willing, but that's not her design. The Creator made us all with the purpose, and He does not make errors. Like we are believing, many of us, too many of us believe that He made an error in how He created us and what He created us for. That's not my God. I don't know if that's your God. That's just not my God. To believe that He made error like that. But let's look at this. Everything starts with economics. So Gen Zers are looking at, where's my inheritance? Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his and theirs to come after him. Where's Gen Z's inheritance? Where's his American dream? Gen Z didn't just inherit the future, they inherit the fallout. Here's how boomers and millennials spent the wealth, rigged the system, and left Gen Zers holding the bag, stranded. Generational failure to pass down financial literacy acceptability. Sorry, I got a bit of a congestion. So excuse me, pardon me when I make noises like that. 62% of Gen Z have zero emergency savings, nearly double the rate of boomers. 62%. And that's something to make note of, because we just came out of a very turbulent period during COVID. And if you listen to economists or people who supposed to be reporting on consumerism and the position of consumers, they always mention how average American maybe had $500 set aside for emergencies. What was their plight during that period? I've always asked during that period, how does there no reports on these struggles of all these? It had to be millions of people who were suddenly impacted. They lost jobs. They were not allowed to work for 12, 24 months. No reports that I've seen or saw. What happened to them? And now you see Gen Z is 62%. Has zero emergency funds put aside, saved. If you think what happened during COVID is not going to happen again, why wouldn't it? My question, why would that not happen again? Why would not the people who created that horrendous event not cause another one? What was their punishment for causing that one? Every Democrat politician who imposed draconian restrictions of liberty, movement, freedoms on their states and cities all got reelected. The election period right after COVID, fresh in the minds of people. They all got reelected. No pain, no punishment, no trial. Why would they not do it again? Why would they not? Why would they not? Many of them, they made money. Fauci, multi-millionaire. Just for example, where's his handcuffs in this? Where's his? Where's his sentence? It's going to happen again, y'all. It's going to happen again. Don't rely on credit cards for basic emergencies. 7% of students who use credit for $500 expenses. Boomers benefited from World War II economic expansion, while Gen Z is inherit national debt and inflation. In my article, I showed you economic difference. How much things cost back in the millennial boomer time compared to today. simple hot dog. Not to mention houses, homes. Remember stories of you heard where a person could buy a 1960, 1950 or whatever automobile for like $2,500, something like that. And now look at that same vehicle costs, $45,000, $25,000 more. That same vehicle. Boomers hold. Get this. This rocked me. I didn't know this. Boomers hold $970,000 to $1.2 million in average net worth. We ain't talking about buying power. We ain't talking about money in their pockets. We're talking about like things of value, stocks, land, gold, real value, net worth kind of things. 1.2 million compared to the Gen Zers average 76,000 to 436,000. Problem? If you're a Gen Z, you seeing this, you will have a little pain, feeling in your backside. The emotional total economic instability is leading to anxiety, burnout, and distrust of its institutions. Who's to blame for this? Institutions were set up to protect such a thing. Many of them are believing. Churches, schools, police, military, FBI, president, elected individuals, Congress, legislator. 3 branches. Somebody, my parents. Nobody stood and filled the gap. What happened? What happened? Generation Z is hesitant to set long-term financial goals. 2/3 believe they may never retire. What are they working for? To work until they drop? Might as well spend it now. All about me. I get it. I don't necessarily blame them. If they don't see where they ever going to retire, there is no safety net for them. There's no social security. There's no security. I can see where that all about me culture could grow and fester. I get it. And I've always said there are 3 forms of government. There's God, there's family, the home, and then there's man, government. The church and God has been completely removed from our culture. We are in a post-Christian era. Post. So that's gone. The home, the family. Who's governing that today, generally speaking? Is it a man? No. there lies the problem. Because when there is a void created, something's going to fill it. So the masculine ego, the male ego, has been removed from the family, either physically or emotionally. Something's going to fill that void. An over masculinized female and or government. Either option is a bad one for the culture. Either one. The rise of single mother households in America isn't just a demographic trend, it's a cultural earthquake. I call it a tsunami. As of 2025, over 30% of U.S. children are raised in a single parent household, with the vast majority led by mothers, the female. And that's across the board. We're not even talking about that. 70 and 80% being raised, children being raised by a female in the Negro American community. About 30% generally being raised primarily by the female. That may explain why we see such feminized culture, a culture more bent on avoiding confrontation than addressing it, the issue, and dealing with head on. Makes sense now, don't it? Emotional fallout. Boys raised without male mentorship are more likely to experience emotionally dysregulation, identity confusion, and social detachment. Father absence leaves a vacuum in identity formation, discipline, and emotional regulation, all of which gains support. Because again, when a void is created, something is going to fill it. So if a child, particularly a young male, does not find discipline, guidance, and himself how he's supposed to be in the home, he's going to look elsewhere and he's going to find it. And it may come in a very destructive form. And we see that being played out on our streets, particularly in the urban neighborhoods. Institutional breakdowns. Schools once offered male teachers, coaches, and principals who modeled discipline. There's our word again, discipline, leadership, emotional restraint. Today, male educators make up less than 24% of the teaching workforce, less than a quarter. And only 11% in elementary schools. So most fundamental period, laying the foundation of any young person's life when they're just getting out amongst the world. Who are their role models in the classrooms? Who are the role models when they turn on the TV? Do they have a John Wayne? Do they have a Sidney Poitier? Do they see that depiction of that strong, masculine, restrained, disciplined male? Even in sitcoms, like, we had Happy Days in the Fonz. We had even I could say even Good Times, James Evans. Not necessarily, you got to have money, but he had moral guidance. He stood on, he had discipline. He espoused and oozed the proper guidance, compass, no matter what was going on. Where's that image for today's young people, particularly the male? It's not in the home. If there is a male figure in a home, most cases he's been castrated by his female, by his woman, by society. We giving discipline on young man. Not after what you saw happen with Adrian Peterson not that many years ago. He was tarred and feathered in the media for disciplining his child. People say if they could do it to him, they could do it to me. So I'm not even trying. I can remember we had corporal punishment. You talk to a young man, a young person today, they make all kind of faces like, what? You did what? They did what? They had you grab your knees and they took out a board and slammed that paddle against your backside. What? That's cruel and unusual punishment. Hey, but we didn't have kids beating up parents, teachers back then neither, as we do now. Community centers and churches, once hubs of intergenerational mentorship, have seen decline in male participation due to economic strain, cultural shifts, and disillusionment. If depictions of strong male interactions or actions like discipline, aggressiveness, is no longer allowed, what's the win in a male even attempting to be the male that he knows he should be? That's father used to be. That's father's father used to be. What's the win in that? When you look at, again, going a little bit further, when you look at the whole absence of fathers, the erosion of traditional masculine role models, and the feminization of American culture created an environment where Gen Z males are emotionally adrift, economically fragile, culturally confused, and lacking knowledge of how to properly defend his home or himself. Fighting, acts of aggression, bullying, and yes, extreme bullying definitely should not be allowed. But bullying, the the natural test of one's intestinal fortitude. We have bullies. Every generation have bullies, and my dad said you got to stand up, punch that bully in the mouth, get him up off you. If not, again, bullies run from any force that may inflict pain on them. They run to that they don't see any consequence. So you build a culture like that where the bully doesn't face consequences for acting out against another individual. You're going to see more of that action, because the bully's going to be a bully. Government cannot govern a person's being. You can maybe govern the consequences of that being acting out, but why not allow the people themselves to do what they can do? Government intervention should be the last recourse, not the first. So that being said, fatherlessness, the original identity disruption, comes out in 1 in 4 U.S. children grow up without biological step or adoptive father in the home. Absence of a father figure correlates with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and aggression, increased likelihood of academic failure, substance abuse, and incarceration, difficulty forming secure romantic relationships due to trust issues and emotional detachment. Generation Z males are 3 times more likely than boomers to prioritize dominance as a masculine trait, a reaction to cultural displacement. Newsweek article said that rather than evolve into the new masculine male, one who is caring, nurturing, and emotionally attuned, many Gen Z males are attempting to assert masculinity through dominance in reaction to woman's perceived strength. If one wants to listen to media and what's being presented in the culture, in the Western culture in particular, women can do everything man can do. Supergirl, Captain Marvel, and all of these reincarnations of male superheroes feminized. And males being castrated in their homes by the female. Often see family, male, female, looking at father and mother with a teenage daughter or a younger daughter looking more grown up than the mother, wearing things that totally inappropriate. Males in tow. The role of the father is to protect the female, guard against her wholesomeness. Was such thing as a chastity belt back in the day. I'm not saying go that far, but Baby girls supposed to always be protected by the father. That role has been totally vacated. And so you see girls acting all inappropriately and dressed inappropriately because the home is being led by the female who don't want to impose such discipline like the male would be. That's just fact, y'all. And y'all know that to be true. The feminization of masculinity, this phrase itself implies that the femininity is itself the problem. It points to a cultural shift where emotional sensitivity, therapeutic language, and psychological safety have become dominant values, often at the expense of grit, accountability, resilience. The shift has reshaped how boys are raised, how men are perceived, and how Gen Z males navigate identity in a world that rewards vulnerability but punishes strength. The feminine ego is being celebrated and praised not just in the physical form but in the ideological form, the subconscious form. One of the things that a child fears is not not loved by his parents, his mother, his father. So if acting as a girl gets him praise, mama comes and put a dress on Johnny, claps, dances, celebrates. Johnny sees this. Hey, that must be a good thing. Mama's happy. Father, but mama's happy. I want to do more of this. Johnny may be going through a period where he's exploring his sexuality. Mama teaches, oh, Johnny wants to be Sally. And not only dresses Johnny up in a dress, but makes appointments with the doctor to re-augmentate Johnny's physical being in itself. Johnny doesn't know that this is wrong, because he seeks the approval of his mom and society. Problem. And the men, his dad, his father, the one who's probably governing the home, MIA. In many cases. From toughness to tenderness, the cultural flip. Therapy culture has evolved from building resilience to validating discomfort. Ordinary challenges are now pathologized as trauma, and emotional reactivity is often mistaken for truth. Schools increasingly teach children to seek comfort over challenge, reinforce fragility rather than perseverance. How many of you have heard of some event, some horrific event like a school shooting happening, and all you hear is kids being offered counselors or shrinks? Why is that the knee-jerk reaction? Whereas at first I thought that kids go home to their parents, hopefully with the father, to tell Johnny and Sally everything could be okay. Why did they have to be automatically treated like they need some mental therapy? Many of them might not even be impacted by the situation, but this is the picture that they are presented that, hey, something has to be automatically wrong with me. Impact of masculinity in identity formation. Gen Zs are raised in environments that de-emphasize traditional masculine traits like stoicism and risk-taking and leadership. Without strong male role models, many boys turn to agoraphic masculinity. Influencers who offer rigid, hyper-masculine frameworks as a counterbalance to cultural softness. Men know, boys know that there's something very wrong in our culture, but they're not allowed to be what they are innately designed to be. Leaders, fighters, aggressive. Not to the extreme, but they're not allowed to offer anything that their natural selves want to express. The result is a polarized masculinity, either emotionally fragile and passive or aggressively dominant and emotionally detached. Y'all know I am a big fan of Glenn Beck, who created this incredible on streaming platform called The Blaze. If y'all haven't checked it out, I would definitely highly recommend that you do so. If you're a true conservative, really want more news that is not offered by the government. But again, you should always do your own research. But there's just one gentleman. It was a platform with The Blaze. Steve Dace show. If you haven't checked it out, I would definitely recommend you do check that out. He had an episode, I think last week, and it covered the civilizational collapse, reporting that less than 15% of 30-year-olds are married and own a home. Less than 15%. Why? When you're not raised in a home where the father was culturally expected that you get out the house at 19, particularly if you're a male, you leave home at 19. Get out into the world. And it's acceptable, culturally acceptable that you, hey, stay as long as you like. 26, 30. Problem. How big of a problem? Look at this graph. Those of you who are able to see this. This is not just disturbing. I don't know if there's a word for it. Somewhere around 1990s, we went off the cliff. We dropped still below 45%, but we went like straight down to now we're, like I said, less than 15%, closer to 10% than 15%. I don't know what happened around 1990s. I mean, that was Reagan's time. I mean, I went through it, but I don't remember anything that could have caused this. Incredible. But again, if there is not an environment that rewards risk taking, that encourages, expects men to go out and take risks, but instead rewards passivity, rewards not taking risks, gives you a participation trophy just for showing up. What kind of reaction do you think you're going to get in the culture? It ain't going to be good. I think the most pivotal, transformative personality that we ever had, that the United States has ever had as president, was Barack Obama. Get the devil his due. He was charismatic. He came at the right time. The culture was ready for him. His handlers handled him and the culture and the country expertly. The news media has not been the same since. They totally removed the veil of any objectivity, and they went totally to the dark side. And today, he's still a rock star in the Democrat community. A man, truth be told, voters had no idea who he was, nor is. Got to get the devil his due. And if you're real honest, you look back prior to him and look at the country post him. It's a different country. It's a different country. Of course, like if y'all saw my presentation of Rules for Radicals, if y'all haven't, it's 3-parter. Of course, he's heavily in it because he was an immediate disciple of Saul Alinsky, and his tactics, ideology was definitely not far from this man's policies. The one that he used most, in my opinion, was force institutions to follow their own stated values to the letter. He often quoted the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and biblical principles to challenge America to live up to these ideals, especially regarding race, equality, and justice. His whole presidency, both terms, was about race baiting and equality, particularly in regards to feminine equality and so-called social justice, which all are Marxist, Leninist depictions, no, not depictions, but creations. His speeches refrain reframe patriotism as critical loyalty, loving America enough to hold it accountable. Again, it wasn't just about loving the country. Now we had to judge it. See? The impact on Gen Z that this taught young people to view patriotism as conditional, not just automatic. When I was raised, you're American, and everything around you, you took pride of. And me, I saw us as the greatest country on the planet because of the movies I saw, the comic books I read, the heroes, Superman, um, um, all of the sitcoms, all institutions. Patriotism was it. You want American, you want anything. That was how I was raised. Memorial Day was special. Independence Day, it wasn't just about cookouts. Veterans Day. It's not that way no more. It seeded skepticism toward institutions and inspired activism rooted in moral accountability. Moral accountability from a 19-year-old. What? Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Another subtle listening tactic. He built coalitions that appeared larger and more unified than they were, leveraging media and grassroots energy to empathy influence. To amplify influence. Obama's strength was that came from the fact that the media made him appear bigger, his influence greater, his followers more numerous than was reality. The media made him appear larger than he actually was. And young people ate it up because everybody wants to be popular. Everybody wants to be in the crowd. And young people's orbit. The impact on Gen Z, young activists learn to use digital platforms to punch above their weight. We see even today young women, school teachers, mothers on social media doing some outlandish stuff that they would never do generation prior, particularly in regards to the transgender movement or just going against law that they may not like. Going on the WWW and literally feeling that there not going to be any consequence. Because this is what they believe and what they believe is right. Organizing movements like Black Lives Matter and climate strikes were minimal with minimal resources, but massive visibility. Again, the media. And if all your views of the world comes through ABC, CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, okay, maybe take Fox out of that because number of people who watch Fox compared to the other three. Yeah, not even close. But if that's your world, yes, Obama was, and all his ideology and followers, huge, important. So therefore, you have cancel culture. Once you give a group of a minority, again, let's look at the transgenders. They're less than 3% of the population, but you would think they were 14%. If you look at all of the fawning and love that they're being offered through the media and presented as through the media, less than 3%. Yeah, the media is that important when it comes to presenting these type of policies and ideologies into the water system. I don't know if y'all remember this, but Obama was the first president that put Mao, ornament of Mao Zedong, the slaughter of many Chinese during the so-called Communist Revolution in China. He put Mao's ornament on the nation's Christmas tree. I think that was during his first time in office. Media said really nothing about it. He was a follower of Mao. Let's not forget that only one political party have affiliates with the word socialist in it. Democrat Socialist Party. Or that if you go to the rallies, you see Communist USA banners. That'd be the Democrat Party. So the fact that Obama felt so emboldened to put such a person's ornament on the nation's tree and get no blowback, I mean, it's like, what do you expect? If a Republican would did that, oh, whoa, oh, it'd been ugly. But not Democrats. Not them. It's like that's who they are. We don't know that. Many of us in the populace don't know that because the media don't really shine light on that. But yes, Mao is definitely an idol to Obama, and you could tell through his policies how much they mirror the ideological purity test. Social media mobs enforce progressive orthodoxy, punishing deviation from identity politics and liberal values. Public shaming and recantation. Celebrities, academics, influencers were pressured to issue public apologies for perceived offenses. And I go back to Drew Brees. If y'all remember, he was the quarterback of New Orleans Saints, future Hall of Famer. He gives an interview where he praised his father, who was a World War II vet, a grandfather, praised him. And the leftists had a baby over this. I mean, they went off on him because they saw that as an affront for one, being a proud being proud of a military man for defending our country, but I guess I believe also because I think that because it was a whole war thing, and he got so much heat for this that he recanted his praise for his grandfather publicly, and I felt that was the tipping stone to show these nuts how much power they have, because the media descended on Breeze and made, I guess, life unbearable, particularly for his wife. His wife just wanted peace and quiet, calm, no fight, no trouble. I can imagine how his home must have been. So he bent that knee, 2 knees, and kissed the ring. And that opened up the floodgates, my humble opinion. Youth as enforcers. Gen Zs and Millennials became digital enforcers, using platforms to cancel dissenters and reshape norms. Mao did this very, very successfully. They were called the Red Guards. They went after teachers, they went after celebrities, they went after parents, they went after anybody who wasn't towing the line of the government narrative, Mao's narrative. Destruction of symbols. I mean, y'all remember this. Statues of founding fathers and controversial figures were toppled. Historical narratives were rewritten. Mao, check your history. Mao did this did the same thing because he wanted to erase history, erase old traditions, old knowledge, erase anything that would get in his way of making a new China. Mob justice over due process. Trayvon Martin. Forget that the other gentleman, Michael something, the kid that got shot by the police in Missouri. Court found the officer innocent. The mob did not. That was excused. Damn the law. I say he's guilty. That was okay. And that has been the playbook from that point on, of the left. Online accusations led to firings, deplatforming. Reputations ruined, often without investigation. Red Guards. My platform on not just X or Twitter, but YouTube. YouTube took me off because I wasn't talking about COVID in the manner that they wanted me to. And many conservatives, Republicans, were deplatformed in a country that supposedly everybody has the right to free speech and it's a speech that you don't like, you don't agree with, that's supposed to get the greater protection. Not so anymore, particularly if you are on the right, speaking against the government narrative. But let's look at what we're looking at. What all of this comes down to, and all this is created when Gen Zers don't see the value of being an American, where the American dream is no longer in reach, where they don't have the idols, John Wayne's, or ever seen America victorious in a military conflict. They don't see the war movies like I did, my generation did growing up, where America won, was victorious. We always had the white hats. Our founders always spoke of with reverence. That's not the country that they're growing up in. So patriotism is at an all-time low. Should we be surprised? No, because they have not heard, seen, or witnessed, felt that America is good, that its founders are good, because they've been bombarded by leftist propaganda about how America is the cause of all that is wrong in the world. Social justice. America is a racist nation, even though we got more billionaires than anyone on the planet. Asians make more money than white people do. Make it make sense, y'all. Make it make sense. Articles are being written, so this is not just me, The Hill. Will Gen Z cancel America? Axios actually came out with the report that showed a graph. The share of adults who say they are extremely proud to be an American is 18%. 18%. And they started this graph in 2015, where it's up, takes a dip, 2016, goes up to about 2017, and it goes down after that point. Now, who was in office around 2017? Obama? Coincidence? And y'all saw my presentation several years ago. Y'all remember seeing this. Partisanship reflected in who's proud to be an American. Republicans, of course, are going to be more so. Everybody was up 2003. But somebody said we should never let that happen again. Y'all remember the events around that time? It has not been the same since, even for Republicans. The height of 86% has been going down. Now it's around about 60%, according to this graph, this poll. If you're not proud of your home, How fervently are you going to defend it? How vigorously are you going to defend it? To say, for young people, witness on a daily basis foreigners being allowed to come into our home, into our country, and make their own rules. Worse yet, politicians making it easier for them to not assimilate into our culture, to not see our culture as being superior. It's no longer seeing America as being the beacon for all the world, and our principles or our ideology or way of being not being revered. If anything, is being demonized. Why do you want to be a part of that? Why you might just sit on the sideline and be apathetic? When a call comes out like it did several years ago for Americans to defend the country, who's going to rush for that call? That's the question. That's the question. That is what all this is the culmination is going to be. Who is going to protect this country, its ideals, in the next generations? Who? That's the question. Who? If we no longer have young people who love this country, who sees it as the best country on the planet, who sees its founders as the greatest people, not perfect people, but the greatest people. For without them, they would not have all of the luxuries, even though they may be seen as diminished from generations prior. But still, I mean, the poorest person in this country is way, 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 way better off than the poorest person in the third world country. People don't go out to other countries to see how good they have it. They say they must rather accept communism over capitalism. They've never been to a real communist country. Was talk to anyone who's from a real communist country to even have such a viewpoint. Ignorant viewpoint. But this is their reality. They think that this is a country that should be reconstituted. And if that's what they truly believe, they are going to act not necessarily in the best interest of this country, know it themselves. It's just a problem. There's seems some movement opposite, but the America of my generation is no more. The liberal progressive had totally factionalized our country. There are more liberals than conservatives by number, because they occupy a lot of the main states, California, New York. They have control of the institutions, particularly when you look at entertainment and the news media, the churches. That has to change before anything else changes. The male masculine ego has to be reinstituted into our culture, if that comes with it. or we become more and more of a nanny state, more and more of a Europeanist state where the government is the daddy. And many Gen Zers are for that because they have more faith in government now than any generation prior. But at the same time, whether or not they're aware of it or not, the government is the cause of what ails them. Government intervention in areas that it was not supposed to be involved in. But they want to know that because they're not taught how the Constitution was designed particularly to limit government's intervention into personal lives of Americans. They're totally unaware of that for the most part, which is why they are so lost and frailing to try to stop them drowning. That's the problem. Until they realize how good they have it, they will seek to destroy it. I hope God has mercy on us. Because at the end of the day, it is up to us how this country is going to inevitably end up.
Thanks for listening to today's show. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. And look for Project Third Eye Open on your favorite social media platforms. Check out our webpage at projectthirdeyeopen.com. And that's Third Eye with the letter I. projectthirdeyeopen.com. Or drop us a note at tonyel@projectthirdeyeopen.com. That's tonyel@projectthirdeyeopen.com. As you wait for our next podcast to drop, don't take anything we've said as fact. Instead, do your own homework, make up your own mind, then take action. Until next time, be blessed, be good, and be free.